with us here? Yeah, great. Okay, so we have everybody visible. And so welcome everyone to our second last class of the semester, Humanities Destiny. Sure, as long as we can see the back of your head, okay? Just so people get a sense of, there we see you going into YouTube, your head. That's good. Then we know there are people here. Um, Okay. Yeah, so it's a small in-person group today, right in here, which is absolutely fine, which means that we're going to really keep everything contained here. We don't need to go to the boards. We can do it just ourselves and maybe go to the one board, maybe enough. But essentially, this is the penultimate class, second last class, and I would like to start to think about the human brain and explore this whole field of neuroscience, or at least begin to, and we can finish up next week in the final class, okay? So that's really going to be the critical part of today's class. But at the same time, I just need to make sure that this doesn't get in the way. Tech, do not get in the way, okay? Just be good, tech, be good. And forgive me if I'm talking to things that don't seem real, but I have to say tech has become an absolutely real thing in this class. Sometimes I feel it's a person. Tech. So, penultimate class and neuroscience and a few other things. But before we begin, I would like to make sure that everybody is on track for an amazing final assignment that's due in 1 week. And this is the big part of this semester. It's worth 30% of your grade. And I want to make sure that you do as well as you possibly can. We've already dealt with this in the class. We've talked about this. We've spent, I think, almost a class brainstorming about ideas and helping you to think it through. So I'm not going to spend much more time on it now, but I will check in with you and make sure. Does everybody here feel like they're on top of things for the final assignment? I know you had a question or two. I think I got back to you, right? Email? Was there something about and I got back to you. Yeah, so you got you had a question? Yeah, okay. So but it was good because man, and I wouldn't at all be surprised that Andrew would be on top of things early because he's a pro, and he's a guy who's really serious. And so I just want to make sure that you have it answered. I don't have any doubts that Barack, you're going to do a great assignment, but anything you want to address? You're okay? Okay. Rachel, as well, you've been doing some good writing and good thinking. You feel pretty on top of things? Yeah? Okay. And it's Akil. Okay, sorry. Do you feel you're on top of your final assignment? You're ready to deliver something? Oh, you are? Okay, great. Oh, you're going to shoot. Very good. So you saw the examples, some of the examples that were posted? Way to go. I think you mentioned this to me already, or we talked. Yeah, excellent. Okay. Jake, I haven't seen, I know you had mentioned last week something about you had already written 1,000 words or so. How's it looking? Nearly done? Great. Well, you know, yeah, okay, yeah, great. Okay, well, but you have your process. Everybody has their process. Oh, just a second. I want to make sure the others hear that. So go ahead.
How do you cite movies and video games?
Well, that's a good question, and there is a format. You can go to the APA or MLS website um, to find out the latest updated citation format for videos or websites or anything. So works cited. You want to put it in your works cited at the end. Well, I can't remember the exact citation format, But usually, you're going to use the MLA or APA format, not MLS, and it. But I mean, but essentially, if you try to use that format, that's the ideal, either MLA or APA. But if for some reason you're in a huge rush, definitely I need your works cited. But there's basic information that is needed, and I don't care what format you put it in, but I need to know when that source itself was actually produced or published, or if it's a video or a movie, when it was actually released, what year, so I know how current to move. Okay, and then I need the title of that movie. Okay, and ideally, if you can provide, uh, you want to put a link in the citation, but you need to put more than just a link. Okay, all right. Well, that'll maybe eventually, Jake. I could have time for it. For those of you who are doing a video, put your work cited in a credit roll at the end. So, when you have credits or at the end, direct or whatever, or this was done by, just put it right at the end. And that is a perfect place. That's what students started to do a few years ago. You don't have to roll it like a movie, but you can put it on a card at the end. But some students actually have rolling credits, at the end with the citations. That's nice. No, it can't be. It shouldn't be just you sitting on a chair talking off the top of your head into your phone or to a camera. If you're going to talk, just you talking, you better rehearse it and script it out so that what you say is meaningful and hits your time of, say, 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, I have seen students take this assignment not very seriously when it comes to the video portion, and they do really badly on it because they think, "Oh, all Lon's looking for is for me just to talk for 4 or 5 minutes." No, I'm expecting you to actually organize your thoughts, and if you can produce it with pictures and even like a short documentary, even better. What's that? Oh, just make sure so because others may have PowerPoint. Is that what you're gonna do? Or no, you're
Yeah,
gonna do a
like I
video.
can have a PowerPoint presentation and my video in one of the corners, right? And me presenting through that.
Okay, just as so can you walk me through what you're thinking of doing? You're going to be talking with a PowerPoint beside you?
No, like I can integrate my video on the screen and my
Yes.
PPT in the background.
And then the background,
Yeah, my presentation in the background.
but it will be you speaking your face, your
Yeah,
so we're gonna see you talking,
yeah,
and then we're gonna see in the background
my presentation.
behind you or
Yeah,
over your shoulder,
yeah,
like an anchor person, on a newscast when we see them talking and we see pictures going by
yeah,
next to
something
them.
similar to that.
Okay, that's okay. When you are presenting this, this has been done before, and it was actually done well. When you're talking about the individual slides, and you're going to change a slide, will that happen by you just changing it during the video, or are you going to be editing that later?
Honestly, it's going to be more like a screen recording, right? So basically, what I
All
can,
live, like
yeah,
all in one
what,
take, we might say, all in one take.
yeah. So basically, I'm gonna like on my laptop,
Yes.
I'm gonna use my front camera to
Okay.
record me, and I'll be recording like my screen too at the same time, and it's gonna have the presentation on the screen.
So I will see. What will I see when I'm watching the video?
You're gonna see me speaking and my uh, presentation in the background.
In a corner, in a little small
Yeah, me
corner.
in the small corner and the people.
Okay. Okay, I get it. I see that. I've had students do that. So when you're talking,
Yeah.
will you be talking to what we say picture? It's a film term. Are you talking to picture? Meaning, are you talking about what we're seeing in the PowerPoint?
I'm gonna have some like photos and videos in the PowerPoint
Yes?
and some bullet points.
And um, is that going to be exactly what you're talking about at that point, or is it just going to be looped, going on like generic background pictures, or will it actually be
It
now?
is going to be something that I'm talking about in that
Okay,
moment.
and will you rehearse this? So
Yeah.
great. Okay, this is good.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something. Well, thank you.
sounds fine. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you pay attention to hitting your time 4 to 5 minutes. Less is more, meaning it's easy to just sit and talk and have a few pictures, and then suddenly you're just talking off the top of your head, and 10 minutes has gone by. But when you have to hit your time, it means you really have to be selective and rehearse. So every sentence matters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay?
I'll take care of
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank
Great.
you.
Good. No, that's absolutely. Let's see about in the cosmos right now. Uh, Lorelei, how are you doing with your final assignment idea? Are you still committed to that good idea you had? Let's see. You can go yes in the chat, or you can jump on your microphone. Let's see if Lorelei is on her planet. She may have gone to venture out to check another solar system. Oh, you're almost finished it. Way to go. Do you like so far what you're writing? This is important. Good. Way to go that you've started early, because Lorelei, it's often near the at the end of something where we decide we want to rewrite and make more changes. And that's good. Being a perfectionist is good. It just has to be managed. So you, but it's okay. Stress and all these things, they're all good. The stress of wanting to be meticulous, you just have to know how to manage it. So the fact that you've given yourself time, Lorelei, you're almost finished, you're liking it, and you've given yourself time to do what we call tweaking and changing. You still have a week before you hand it in, and if you get it in on that Wednesday instead of the Thursday, you get the 10% bonus, which I'm sure you are fully aware of. Yeah. There's a 10% bonus if you get it in Wednesday or earlier, and the 10% is not that you get 10 more percent. It's just 10% of the grade. So let's say I've graded it at 40 out of 50, you get 44 out of 50. 10% of that. Okay? Yeah. So that's there for you. Which and I suspect these two over here, they're probably, if they are on target for what they're going to be. Yeah, they'll be at the 100. I think they're going to be, if they get it in, they'll. And Rachel, you know, are you on top of that too? The bonus, okay, okay. Yes, Andrew. Oh, take the microphone just so they can. Everybody can hear you. Go ahead.
We'll Justin,
Yep.
we'll be getting the results of the reflection 3 along with 4. They'll be bundled together, or we'll begin in advance of
I'm
the
marking. I'm doing the. In fact, I've started marking, or at least looking at the third reflections, and I'll be getting the marks back soon. But you will get them back this weekend. Yeah, yeah. I've started with everything. So yeah, ideally everybody will be getting the third reflection marks back before they hand in their fourth. Yeah, that's the plan. Um, Okay, good. So Manish, you're halfway done. Lorelei is working on it, and David and Nicholas are with us, and that's good. So let's see what else we need to address before we um, jump into a little bit of research that we need to do together today. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to address? Okay. So here's what I'd like to do. At 3 o'clock, I would like to join a Zoom little meeting that is taking place today with the First Peoples Indigenous Center. And I want to tell you about how this all connects. The First Peoples Indigenous Center are having a kind of workshop today and a guest speaker on creation stories. Creation stories about the origins of the world and of humanity. And this is something I'm always interested in, but most importantly, um, I'm fascinated by what the human brain and the human imagination can do, as you know. And humanity's destiny has always been this semester about the idea of us being able to look ahead and use this great thing called the human brain to think about the future and to make a mental representation of it and to think about our lasting impact that we may have as individuals on the time that we're here. And that was last week, legacy. Normally, I would end a semester with legacy, but this semester I've sort of moved it around a little bit. So I'm going to end more with the human brain and with neuroscience. And I thought that it would be very interesting for you and us, all of us, to join this workshop at 3:15, just for 15 minutes, to get a sense of what are some of the ideas that their guest, I think her name is Dorothy Taylor. She's an elder. She's an elder of one of the first Canadian First Nations. I'm not sure which one. I mean, there are so many in Canada, from East Coast, the Beothuk or Beothuk, as you go east or west, I should say, to, the Ojibwe, Mohawk, Huron, Algonquin, so many. And then as you move west, we have the Haida and the Salish and the Nuchalmut and so many different First Nations. And so the director of the First Nations, the First Peoples Indigenous Center, Kayla Murphy, she will be coming to join us at around 3:15 as well. And then we're just going to kind of plug into this presentation that the elder is making in a Zoom conference. There's another reason why I'm doing this as well. It's not just for us to be able to think about what the human imagination and human cultures can conceive of when they think about our origins. It's also because I'm beginning to build a closer relationship with the First Peoples Indigenous Center here. They're just next door. It's something I've been wanting to do for some time. And now that this format is getting set up better, I'm beginning to have more time to develop partnerships with others in the college. And the third thing is I'm becoming increasingly passionate, as probably a lot of Canadians are, in this sort of post-American world, of what makes Canada unique. Now, probably if you were to take a course called Humanity's Destiny and you were to pick a time when to take it, what year or what period, now would be the time, because we Canadians are beginning to really think about a new Canada. And I've touched on that in this class, but increasingly, we Canadians now in this election, when we vote for a new member of parliament and a prime minister, and even after, when we have a new prime minister, we're going to have to be very, very smart, very quick on our feet, very mentally agile, and really on top of the rest of the world, because the United States is fading from Canada. This is not a class today about what's
That's
happening
insane.
in the US or even about my views, which I'm sure you already know. But it is something that speaks to this thing called imagination, intelligence, and the ability to think ahead really well. We Canadians have to reinvent almost, or rethink, what are we going to be as a nation? And to be able to do that, we have to think ahead, and we also have to go backwards and think about what has made us distinct. And one of those things is our indigenous cultures, our First Nations. So here's what I'd like us to start thinking about today. When we look at two really important forces in the human story that are driving us forwards, like the currents underneath the river that we can't see but are moving the water, we would say one force is the force of science, and the other force is the force of religion. Science and religion. They're the two great intellectual forces in the human story. Religion is about the human imagination thinking about the meaning of our existence and our purpose. And I put the indigenous creation myths into that category of the human imagination trying to understand what we're supposed to be doing here. We're going to hear about that a little bit later. But when we talk about the human brain and this ability to think and imagine, we're also talking about the power of the scientific method, about the human brain and the human being wanting to know exactly what is really going on in nature, what is really happening. And that means that fields like neuroscience or any scientific field are very, very important places today to understand what might be happening in the future. We're making so many discoveries every day from the field of science, whether it's about the atmosphere, whether it's about what's in the earth in terms of archaeology or anthropology, whether it's about the human psychology, whether it's about human desire. Religion has their own way of looking at these things. But then there's science. Then there's neuroscience. Neuroscience is the science and the study of the human brain. It's the study of exactly what is this most evolved organism in all of evolution on planet Earth. There is no other animal, no other creature that has walked on this planet or lived on this planet or swum or flown who has the ability to do what we do with our brains. Now, I'm going to, for the sake of our discussion today, I'm going to remind you that science is a way for us to understand with proof. And I'm going to be talking about the brain as something that can be understood and studied. I'm not going to be talking about it in terms of stories or mythology or what religion might say. I'm going to talk about neurons and synapses and how data gets moved around the brain. Talk about memory, consciousness, and the different parts of the brain and what they're responsible for. And we have a lot of studies today on helping us to understand that. What I want to do together in this discussion today is find out what we don't know about the human brain yet. We need to do some research together because we have learned that we have what are called brain cells. We know this. And I'm just going to give you some very, very basic science before we then begin to explore a question together. And the question is, what don't we know? And what might we discover? And that's where we're going to go in our conversation. But first, we need to understand a little bit of this incredible organism that has more cells than we could ever imagine. Something like 20 billion, 18 billion, or 19 billion neurons or nerve cells. Now, try to imagine the microscopic picture of this. we now have microscopes, electron microscopes, and other instruments that can show us so close and deep into what's around us that it's absolutely impossible for our eye to see the things that I'm talking about. Only microscopes can see this. And only since we've developed powerful microscopes driven by electrons can we go even further and see even more at what's called the quantum level, the tiny, tiny microscopic level. So we know in the human body, for example, that you have skin and there's skin cells. There are blood cells, there are bone cells, there are brain cells, and every single cell, which we cannot see without a microscope, contains the genome that creates all of who we are. And every single cell, every of the probably 100 billion cells that make up the human body, 18 billion alone, 20 billion in the brain. Each one of those cells has that human genome in it, and every single one, and every single cell with that genome, inside that genome, has a nucleus, and in that nucleus is deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. And the structure of that DNA is something that we've begun to understand. And along that DNA, it's like a ladder, we have 25,000 genes or so. Every single cell in our body has those genes that make who we are. Just 25,000 or so. That's all. Now, in the brain, these cells, they're also called neurons. They are talking to one another. They are connected through what are called synapses. It's almost like looking at um, a huge tree, like a massive tree. Take the leaves all away, and you just see a tangle of branches all going in and around and back and forth. Some are connected, some are doing this way, that way, but they're all sort of somehow connected to one another. It's like a very complex tangle of things all connected. And on those things, those branches, those are the neurons. And information is moving across those neurons that makes up our consciousness. We've learned this. We can see this now. We can even hear the brain working. It makes an electrical sound when you really get close enough to it. It's a kind of electrical instrument in terms of all those neurons moving around. We have said about neuroscience that we are now increasingly on the kind of the cusp of beginning to learn new things about what the human brain is capable of. We may learn that the human memory is a lot richer and bigger than we ever thought. Well, we may learn something about consciousness that we've never fully understood. We may learn something about human desire, about many things that we've never understood. I don't know exactly what we're going to discover. But the amazing thing about the human brain is there's so much we don't know. It's just like when we think about going into outer space and we basically just put our toe into the great sea of the cosmos. We're just starting to leave the planet and explore what's out there in the solar system and beyond. It's similar in neuroscience. We're just beginning to understand something about this incredible organism. It just weighs about 3 kilograms. It uses something like 25 to 30% of all the energy in your body. It's the most densely packed brain of all living things on this planet. Some primates from whom we've evolved, like the chimpanzee, it's believed they have maybe more neurons than we do, but they're not packed into such a closed and small space in which the neurons communicate with one another very efficiently in a very, very small space. So we have this densely packed thing called the human brain, with the neurons working in a very efficient way. First, in our discussion, what I'd like to ask you is, are there any of you who are really interested in the idea of neuroscience and the human brain? Let's just sort of, Rachel, Andrew, anybody online who have an interest in this idea of
Me.
what the human brain is capable of, what
Yes.
we know, what we maybe hope to find out, and what might be beyond our understanding. Anybody in the cosmos, just put a little hand up there so I can see. If you don't say yes, you're interested, that's okay. I'm still going to continue because I'm going to tell you something about humanity's destiny. The one thing that you have seen this semester is that the future of what happens on planet Earth is largely in human hands. There's no other creature, no other animal on this planet, going back to its very beginnings, when life began about 1 billion years ago or so, with single cells, multi-cells growing into complex creatures and animals. But there's never been a creature like us. We are the most evolved creature who has survived and built civilization on this planet, and we're beginning with our intelligence to leave. The future of what happens is all going to depend on what we think. Once upon a time, the Egyptians believed that the center of being was the human heart. And in burial of Egyptian figures, even some of their most important figures, they would remove the brain. They would suck it out from the nose and basically just discard it or wrap it up. But they wouldn't treat it as seriously as the human heart. They thought the center, the seat of being, the seat of all things was the human heart. We've learned since then that that's not true. We understand now how the brain works. We understand there's a central nervous system and that data moves from the brain and controls the movements of our bodies and what happens. So the reason why I want to end the course on this is because your brain and what you can think and imagine and the way you use it and the way you understand it will dictate not only your own future, but collectively what happens on this planet. So let's start for a moment, okay? And see. I'd like you to tell others here, what is the most interesting thing to you about the human brain? When Andrew, you said, you're interested. Rachel, I think you raised a hand, and others might be thinking about this. I'll start with Rachel, okay? Just grab a microphone, all right? We'll keep it together here. I want to try and understand why you would like to know more about the human brain, and then we're going to start the activity. Go ahead.
Is this, yeah, it's on.
It's good.
Okay. It's a little bit difficult to put into words, but
Keep going. Okay, I'm going to make some notes. Yep.
okay. I think sort of to put it all together, sort of what interests me is the idea of dreams, and then also as well, like, if you think about, you should think about a banana. You can see a banana in your, in your head. I don't know how that happens. I don't know. I'm trying to think about how to word it. It's not just dreams, but it's just
Dreams,
yeah,
consciousness
overall. Yeah. And then also too, how in dreams, and then also memories, how our brain will, to protect ourselves, they might, omit certain memories. Like, if you get into a car crash, you won't remember the actual crash, that kind of thing. And
Yes.
protect ourselves, stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Good. Okay. So this always comes up whenever I ask students about this, is the idea of dreams and what they mean, and whether there's something else going on there, some deeper meaning that we need to be listening to. And should we be focusing our attention more on understanding the significance of this? Hold your thought for a second, okay, Jake? Because I want to make sure I deal with your move. Okay. Andrew, talk about the human brain, your brain. We know that this thing between your shoulders, it's small, really small. It's very efficient. It has all of this activity in a space of that just weighs about 3 kilograms or so. It uses a lot of energy. So, what what is it that sort of you'd like to know or interests you about it?
Um, the power of the subconscious.
Uh,
Um, I think Daniel Kahneman. He has a book, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow.
yes,
It's a very interesting book.
yeah, it's good.
He talk about the subconscious and how a lot of stuff that we do um, is basically run in the back. There's a background programming that's doing most of the work, and we don't necessarily have access to it. So I find that very interesting. Um, a lot of things that I'm doing that I think I'm consciously doing actually
Yes,
is being run in the background for my subconscious.
it's a good source you've mentioned. And when you're done, I want you to go over there and take the pen and write down that book, okay, for everybody. I've just put a little square. That's for you, okay? Were you going to write that? But so what is what we think the subconscious? What is it exactly? It's something underneath our normal. And is there any research or anything from this book or that we're beginning to understand more about that you've read or about subconscious activity of the brain?
Um, yeah, and in the book he speaks about the brain like in stuff that is automatic. It doesn't like to do um, it doesn't like to do stuff in like say a conscious way. So to explain it,
Yes.
okay, it likes automatic. It likes to let's say tie your shoelaces without having to think about it. Things like that. One of the interesting things that you mentioned is like if you're driving somewhere for the first time, why it takes when we're driving back, it seems like a shorter distance, and that's because when we're going, it's something new. So we are subconsciously taking in the new environment, right? And that gives an impression of taking more time, although it's the same distance,
Right.
because our brain is like, okay, this is new to me. What is this? What is that? What is the other? So it seems like it's taking longer to get to that destination.
Yes.
When we're returning from that destination, it seems shorter because we've already aware of our surroundings.
Right. Right.
It's a lot of interesting things,
Absolutely.
man.
It's a very good source because I've heard about it. I haven't read it, but I've been meaning to look more closely at it. Can you do us a
I
favor?
recommend it to everyone.
Could you write down? Just go ahead in the square. I put for the notes for everybody that Andrew is going to write down a good source for all of us, and it's something that can provide some more research and help in understanding the human brain. Now, here's what I would like to do as a kind of activity together. And we'll do it just in this small group today. Please stay at the board, okay, Andrew? Because I'm going to need you to take a few notes as well. What do you think we need to be exploring about the human brain? What would you like the human brain to be as opposed to what the human brain right now is, which we can explain more. But what would you like the human brain ideally to be doing on planet Earth? Okay, we know we know that this thing called the human brain that everybody has, every single human being, is the most evolved, most complex, and sophisticated alive instrument that has ever been created by nature. So, is it doing enough at this point, or could it be doing more? And what could it be doing more of? If we were to improve the human brain, where should we turn our attention to? Let's see. Rachel's, yeah, I'm asking exactly. Okay, I'm asking the question, and I just want to make sure. So, in the cosmos, just have a few more minutes, and I want to get to somewhere else, but I just want to start on this. Manish, Nick, David, Lorelei, and Corson, I'd like you in the live chat to start putting some thoughts in there of what you think the human brain could be doing better at. Rachel, we're going to start here, okay?
That kind of made me think about the idea of cloud consciousness, how if we could put the power of all of our brains together, what problems would we be able to solve?
Yeah. So right now, Elon Musk, who, for better or for worse, we have to talk about him because of his importance in our technological future. We won't talk about the politics, but he does have a company called Neuralink, in which he is trying to figure out how to implant successfully the sort of something in the brain, a device in the brain that can make it better, make it stronger, make it do more. So what is this thing called cloud consciousness exactly? Because Ray Kurzweil, and I think did you talk about him in your reflection? I know there was a student who did. Ray Kurzweil has talked about this, the idea of cloud consciousness, and I've touched on it. Can you explain this a little bit more for the students so that they understand? They may have missed that earlier. Well, try, okay? Cloud consciousness, being able to take the memories and what's in our brain and put it somewhere else. And Ray Kurzweil has talked about that becoming increasingly a possibility or even a reality. So then, if we were able to do that, what would we be able to improve in human society if we were able to share more what's in our brains with each other? Isn't that a kind of terrifying prospect? We lose our privacy. We lose our sort of own sense of what is just ours, and we're giving over our consciousness to some other source. Isn't that disturbing? But it might help us.
I think that, in terms of like, at least the US and Canada, we have sort of like a individualistic like community overall. Like we're
Yes.
not really like a community. In some places we are, but I think that if we actually like work together, there could be a lot of like socio-political issues that we might be able to work over, that kind of thing.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to do one thing just to help us with some real information because this can work well. I often think that in this classroom, what we're doing is we're thinking things through together when it really works as a class. And so what I'd like to do is, Lorelei, are you with us still? Because she is a pretty good researcher. She likes to dig for stuff. Could you do us a favor while we're just finishing up the beginning of this conversation? Could you start to find out specifically some very concrete information about exactly what do we call the different departments of the brain and what are they responsible for? So there's a left hemisphere, there's a right hemisphere, there's a thing called a hippocampus, there's a central nervous system that connects to this. Would you be able to start to do a little bit of research and just put into the live chat what you find in terms of what exactly are the different sections of the brain called and what are they responsible for? It's very basic information. You can even go to Wikipedia and do it, okay? I'd just like to see this in the live chat. So, Lorelei, would you be able to do that? Yeah, good. And for Corson, David, and the others, I would like you to focus on the same thing, but I'd like you to pick in your research what you think is the most important part of the human brain. What exactly is the most important part? And for that, you can go online, you can check Wikipedia. I'm fine with that right now. I just want to start seeing some basic information in the live chat. Okay? Yeah, exactly. So I just want to, and we'll return to this at probably 3:30. Good, Manish. So we've started prefrontal cortex. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, All right. So let me just check something with this Zoom call to make sure that it's working properly. And then we're going to focus a little bit on this, and then we're going to come back. So the idea today is that when we look at the human brain, we're trying to understand the way we imagine with the human brain. That's kind of religion, tribal stories, and then there is the way we think about our lives in terms of science, and that's neuroscience. So we're trying to understand more about how the human brain understands its reality around us. It's through stories, but it's also through science. And what we're going to see in the live chat is we're going to see increasingly the elements of science coming in there, the different parts of the brain, and then we'll start to look at what they actually do. All right, so let me get my glasses for a second, and I'm going to just go to this. I have the link here, and let's see how they're doing. Okay, so uh, here we go. I don't want to be downloading, but I'll should be fine. Good. Let's launch the meeting. And give me, might be, what's that? So um, scroll down. Yeah, right. Let's see. Thanks. Yep. Okay. Global classroom. Okay. All right. So let's, yeah, I'm just going to, let me just get this for a second. Set up. Here we are. And speaker. I just muted it here for a moment so I can speak to the students online to let them know in the live chat, you have a Zoom link there. You can join the meeting on your own, okay? And I'd like you to connect to this meeting for a little bit, and then we're gonna talk. This is an indigenous elder who is speaking about creation myths and how we humans, how this culture understands its origins. This is human imagination. Let's go back. Okay. Okay, I muted this for a second because I wanna make sure we're understanding what's going on as we move forwards in this little exploration we're taking of the human imagination live with an indigenous elder. And we can ask questions if you want of this person, but let's just make sure that, the cosmos as well is good, and I just wanna come and check with them. Uh, okay, so Corson, Ooh, good. Laura Lies had it. That's exactly what I thought. That's great. Okay. Orson, were you able to join the uh, conference, the Zoom conference in progress with an Indigenous elder? Excellent. Manish, you were? Okay, good. So everybody is able to connect and listen to Dorothy Taylor, and we're going to continue to understand more as we hear from her. This is not science, but it's vital nonetheless, in understanding how we humans think about our future. We have to imagine it. Imagine our past. This is what an indigenous creation myth is. It's imagining what we think took place. This is the human brain in action. Do you know how many different creation myths there are on this planet? Many. You go to a different religion, a different indigenous society, and you're going to see something different in terms of how we thought it all began. It's remarkable what the human imagination is able to conceive. You have that thing called the human imagination. So let's just explore more about this, okay? This is just neurons working and coming up with these things. But we would like to know from the cosmos, as we start to put in more information, when we make mental pictures, mental representation things, Lorelei and others, where might that be coming from? What part of the brain creates pictures of the future? And if we know what part of the brain it is, it's very possible that we could change that. We could change what we actually imagine and what we dream and what we think about. If we know which part of the brain to go to and begin to alter it. Just yesterday, it was announced that we have brought back to life an extinct species, a wolf. We've done it. And all we did is we went into the genome of another type of wolf and we altered its genome. I don't know exactly what we did, but we might have spliced out a gene from the genome, put in something else, and sure enough, now what's come back to life is this wolf that we thought was extinct just because we've altered its genome. Well, in the same way, is it possible that if we identify the part of the brain that is making up these stories, maybe we can change what that part of the brain actually thinks about? Humans have more and more control over what our bodies can do. It's not just prosthetics. It's not just heart transplants or lung or kidney, transplants. It's also altering the structure of the human brain. That is the frontier science in some ways. Anyway, let's come back and see what Dorothy Taylor is thinking about, okay? Stories. Okay, let's stop for a second and just make sure we understand. uh, what exactly she is telling us and why the power of this, which is not science, might actually be equal to the power of science in terms of our future. See if we understand this thought for a second, okay? I've shown you today, just very briefly, something about our own anatomy, science is understanding, and is the human brain. And we're understanding it more and more. And we might even be able to start altering parts of the human brain to make us better as humans. Maybe. That's all based on science, on how the neurons work, synapses work, understanding which part of the human brain you might have to look at. That's not what this is. She's talking about maple trees. She's not talking about parts of the brain that we can understand. And yet, there is real meaning here. There is real meaning in terms of how we think about our purpose as humans. And when we think about our future, when we think about our collective future and your individual future and your legacy and all the things that we have touched on in one form or another this semester, ultimately it comes back to purpose. What's our purpose? What's your purpose? What do we want the future to be if we can control it more? Well, maybe there's something going on in these stories that we learn from the human imagination that can tell us about what we want in the future. So, I'd like to ask you, so far, as you've been listening to Dorothy Taylor, an elder, speak about their traditions, how might this meaningfully speak to humanity's destiny? Okay, what do you think? Let's go into the cosmos, okay? So, just want you to think about this, and then I'm gonna see what's happening in the cosmos. Right now, look at this. It's on fire with Lorelai's data, and that's good. So I'm gonna Lorelai, are you able to use your microphone at all? Or see, if not, I'll read it out loud, okay? Because we're getting a lot of science right in here.
Yeah, I
Great,
can use my
okay?
microphone.
And here's from Manish, talking the prefrontal cortex and frontal lobes plays a key role in decision making, problem solving, and planning by helping us to evaluate options, think about long-term consequences, and organize tasks. Additionally, it helps regulate impulses and control behavior. This is all science. So great. But it's not a maple tree. So what you're seeing right now is, in a way, kind of two ways we think about our future. We understand what the human brain do, so that will drive what humans do. But then we have Dorothy Taylor, the elder. She's not speaking about frontal cortexes and hippocampuses and right hemisphere and left hemisphere. She's talking about maple trees. Why is that as important to our future the way all of that data is? I mean, follow? Is it, or am I confusing you? Is it good, Andrew? Is it making sense? What's that? Okay. See, I wanna make sure. I want you to be able to listen to her and think, her stories, she's speaking to something very meaningful about our future, and it's not science. Okay? Thanks. We all tend to think about the future in scientific ways. We all tend to think about the future in terms of what humans can do with their brains and what neuroscience. I'm thank you. Yes, but here we have. So what's the meaning? Rachel, you wanna stay a little bit? You're welcome to. Rachel is from the First Peoples Indigenous Center. She gave a presentation recently, and she's a scholar and, a few other things, and I'm gonna get your feedback afterwards, on this. We're just briefly, plugging into this. So I'm trying to for them to think about, and maybe you have a few minutes? Could you speak to this? Okay. I'm gonna give Rachel Taunton a microphone. She kind of again, and you have a mic there? Yeah, mic, and I'm gonna ask Rachel the question I was just trying to help you all think about. Let me just Rachel Taunton is with the First Peoples Indigenous Center. She's helped to set this up, and your official title in the center, it's outreach, yeah. There's Kayla Murphy, she just came in, she's the director of the center. So, in the story that Dorothy is telling, started with a maple tree. She is speaking to something that we've been exploring today called the human imagination, and thinking about the meaning. Why is her story as meaningful to us in terms of understanding the human future as a discovery is about the latest science that we're learning about the human brain or what the human brain can do? Why is the human imagination and what it sees as important or even more important than what we discover through science?
I would probably because science isn't necessarily um, accessible.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, she's go on. Yeah, yeah,
Uh, Scientific language isn't necessarily accessible to every person, I guess. So if you're able to sort of convert important, the story of Hannah Bosch and the Native People Tree basically is about teaching people not to be greedy and to work together, and that's how you sort of get the rewards in life. Um, so just saying don't be greedy isn't necessarily the way to teach. But if you illustrate the issue and sort of the consequences, like getting the sugar for diabetes,
yeah.
and sort of how working together to reach your goals is more desirable through a story like that with the maple tree.
Yes.
It's easier to illustrate your point, especially to children. I'm a big believer in making academia accessible to everyone.
Sure.
So that answers your question.
Well, let me just make sure I just wanna make sure that you can be heard, because right now I'm just doing a few tech things. Um, did no, it's okay. Did, Lorelei, did you hear Rachel speak right now? Let's see. Can you put a yes or a no in here? And let's see. Uh, excellent, excellent. It's working. Alright, so what if we discovered in the human brain, in our research, neuroscience, discovered that there's a part of the brain, and I'm just imagining this is not based there's a part of the brain in which we can see humans are basically greedy creatures, and that's the way we are. Let's just imagine, I'm just imagining that we find something in the human brain. Science tells us in the research is that there's a part of the human brain that shows that humans have a gene, say, or a part that is irreversibly greedy. What would we do with that knowledge? Would we just give in to our greed and be that way? Or would we reach maybe to religion, tribal stories to tell us we're better than that? or would we just give in and say, "That's what science says. That's the way we are, and so we don't need to know anything more." But yet we have this meaning right here of a story that says, "This is how not to be driven by greed." Which has more meaning for the human?
I would say in the doubting science that people would think that they, can that science doesn't
And
necessarily.
isn't that all right to be saying there are things that are more important than science?
Definitely,
There you
most religions consider greed to be a sin. It's not just a
That's exactly my point. We live in a scientific, technological civilization that says the most important information is what we get from science, but maybe it's not. I'm thinking I'm gonna this is the hard thought. Great. Thanks. Can we join through audio? Okay, we'll let her go. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. What if we unmute? See. Hello, Dorothy from the Global Classroom. Hi, Dorothy. Hello. Yeah, you have a whole class. Thank you very much. It works. Would would you be able to just stay with us for a couple of minutes? Just a couple? Okay. Thank you very much. Do any of you have any questions? We've been listening, talking about what you've been explaining, and we're kind of letting it sink in. I'm trying to help the students understand that there may be a more important force in the human story than the force of science, and that is the force of what the human imagination thinks about, and the meaning in those stories can be as powerful or more powerful than science. I'm trying to explain that to them. So, does anybody have any questions, or maybe we should just let Dorothy speak to us for a moment about this idea of the meaning in that story and why it's more important than science? Go ahead. Okay. Mhm. Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. In prayer. Right. Yeah. Mm. Oh, it's great. Yeah. Dorothy, thank you so much for, bringing the soul, and the heart and deep knowledge to our classroom and giving us a lot to think about. Um, we wanna let you go. I know you only have until just yeah, sounds good to me. I would be happy to do that. Is there anything any of you want a question for Dorothy before, this is recorded, by the way, so the students have the recording if they wanna review this later to think about. So they may be thinking, Rachel, you good? Yeah, okay. And online, we have students listening as well. Um, thank you. Yep. Well, I'll check with Rachel after here. Yeah, just if you wanna talk to her and turn it on. Okay, good. Okay. Okay. Terrific. Wow, that was a good experiment. Okay, well, we started something. Okay, yippee! That's Manish. Okay, I know yeah, that's a good sign. Okay, that's yours. Okay, great. Good, Manish. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. 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 They can work together. Getting that balance right. That's what I was trying to get across today.
Sort of why you want to go into science. So it gives you sort of the motivation to do the science to get the work done, is what I found anyway.
Okay, well, I'm just going to wrap up with them, and we'll
There is
plan.
soup next door.
Oh, is there? They're next door, by the way. It's a nice spot, and thanks a lot, Rachel, for coming in. And let me just briefly review with all of you what we've just been doing in today's class, because there was a bit of a uh, there was a lot of different things. I was trying to pull it together today with this, and it was the first time I've done this. But what are you going to walk away from today's class with in terms of content? What are you going to be thinking about when you leave? And let's just do a quick check in with 2 or 3 people, and then we're going to call it a class. And why don't we just start with Rachel again, since you joined us today, and then we'll come over here to the gentleman. Oh, you've got that. Maybe Jake. We'll see if we have time, or Manish. Life, good and okay. So Rachel, what you leave? You walk through the doors shortly. What's going to be in your imagination, your head, your brain?
I've just been thinking about how everything that's ever been created on Earth by humans came from originally from our imaginations, um, and I'm just thinking about what kind of influence that's going to have on our future, just in general. I'm having trouble putting my thoughts together.
Okay, well, you just now I'm going to just correct you and say one thing. Everything that's ever happened on Earth, we know science can help us to understand a lot of things that's happened too. So it's the balance. Science has given us so much information about what's really happened on the planet, but then we have all these other stories, and they're meaningful in speaking to something in the human heart, the human soul. Got to get that balance right going forwards. Can't just rely on science all the time. It's cold. Okay, good. Which one of the two gentlemen here, Barack or Andrew? Let's get a thought or two, and then we're going to conclude. Okay? Unless you'd like to say something. Who? Final word.
You forced me to speak.
So Barack.
Yeah, to come to the human brain, I was more thinking about the. We talk about the balance, right?
We talk about
We talk about the balance
yes, balance.
towards the
Yeah,
closing.
yeah.
I was thinking about how we copy the nature for some of our inventions. We imagine we kind of, put it through our brain.
Yes.
It comes out as like a little less copy of the real thing in the nature.
Yeah.
Airplanes, some of them looks like some bird types,
Yes.
more
Yeah.
aerodynamic, but
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of find a delicate balance between what we have, what we see, and what we can make.
Exactly. Exactly. There's even a field of science today that it's looking more and more at how we can mimic what's in nature and create things that are more like nature and not always something different. It's called biomimicry. Something you may want to look into sometime. Biomimicry. It's a very interesting field. Biomimicry. All right. It is 3:45, and I think we should conclude. I just need you to, at least the in-person group, before you go, could you just write down a few thoughts about what you thought of having the elder come in and speak to us? Because this goes back to the First People Center, okay? And I'm thinking of having them come in more in this class to speak about the meaning of Indigenous stories for our future. Okay, so could you just write a few thoughts, and then we're done. Okay, and in the live chat, would you just do me a favor as well, for those of you who are still with us? Before you go, could you just write down a few thoughts of what you thought of Dorothy Taylor's presence in humanity's destiny, the idea that I would be bringing in Indigenous elders from time to time to tell us about their knowledge and what we could learn for our future as humans. Would you just put if you think that's a good idea and or if you think there's another way to do this, but just please go ahead. Put it in the live. Just write that in the live chat, what you thought. A few sentences. Okay? Just a second. I have something for you. I have a pen. There's always a pen somewhere, but I know today pens can be few and far between. That should work. Okay. Yeah, you have a pen? Do you need one? Or? Okay, hold on. So let's see. Is that working, Jake? That pen? Hold on. Okay, I'll get you something here. Hold on a second. Great. So we'll do that, and then we're done. And here we go. Here's. Thank you. Okay. What's that? Today is the 9th, April the 9th. Okay. So I'll leave the class still going. Our live stream is looking good. And nothing has crashed there. All right, then I am going to shut this. I'll save the live chat in a moment. That's good. Okay, I'll just write this. Please, in 3 or 4 sentences, write your feedback on Dorothy Taylor's presentation today, i.e., the idea that in our class, Humanities Destiny, we could be bringing in Indigenous elders to share their knowledge with us so that we can learn about how to make our future a better one. It's a little wordy off the top of my head for those of you in the cosmos. Please, in 3 or 4 sentences, write your feedback on Dorothy Taylor's presentation today, i.e., the idea that in our class, Humanities Destiny, we could bring in Indigenous elders to share their knowledge with us so that we can learn about how to make our future a better one. We can't always be learning from Eminem and Marshall Mathers. We need to be learning from others. Okay? Thanks, Manish. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Something like that. Go ahead. Yep. Take care,
I gotta
Manish.
go now.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good
See you
week.
next week.
See you next week. Okay. Very good. Okay. So it's Akil, right? Yeah, Akil. Yeah, great. So just leave it with me, and I'll see you next week for the final class. Okay. Look forward to your video. Yeah, I look forward to your video. Remember, it's due next Thursday. Next Thursday. All good. All good. I give this feedback to the First Peoples Indigenous Center. I will be taking these handbills to them, and I will share your live chat feedback as well. But it looks like that might be okay. So we have Manisha's, and I don't know if Corson's still there, but good. Thanks, Barack. We've got that. We've got that. Andrew, Jake, and Rachel. Okay, so I'm going to sign out here in the global classroom. I'm going to turn off my audio. Take care, Cosmos. See you next week. Okay, and I'll save this live chat. Good. So that's good. I'm going to end the live stream. No, that's the wrong button.